Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. And I am your host, Nora Muhammad, and I am very happy to be presenting episode 166 of the podcast to you. And I hope that you are a subscriber to the podcast. I hope that you are a return listener. If this is your first time listening to the Nora Speaks podcast, I would encourage you to subscribe wherever you're listening to this, whether it's iHeart, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Castbox, TuneIn Radio. There's so many there's so many apps that we can use now to stream podcasts. Wherever you're listening to this, I'd encourage you to subscribe so that you can be notified when a new episode is published, and make sure you share this with your family and your friends. This podcast is to edify and improve the outcomes within the Black community, and each episode, every single one, is dedicated towards that purpose. And this one is no different. Let's talk about our use of social media. Let's talk about our activity on social media. I am in a Facebook group, or I follow a page, I should say. I follow a Facebook page, and in this, I don't want to identify the page that I follow, but it's a page that deals with home design and decor. And what I'm seeing more and more are people posting things such as this: show me y'all's bedroom, show me your kitchen, let me see your couch. And people in the comments are posting pictures of their bedrooms. They're posting pictures of their living rooms, of their kitchens, and other areas of their homes. And I just think that is not such a good idea to show people what you have in your home. You know, if it's a specific couch, then maybe take a picture of that piece of furniture. But I really, and I know that people are looking to get ideas, and there's a sense of community on social media, Facebook in particular, Instagram. You know, people develop these communities, and they like to share images of their homes. However, I just think that is not the wisest thing to do, to post a picture of what the inside of your home looks like to a random stranger that's asking you. Certainly, if your friend, your family member wants to, know what your house, your furniture layout looks like, then that's something that you would take a picture of and text that person privately. But to post pictures of the interior of our homes and share that with strangers, it concerns me. And I think, man, if I had some nefarious intention and wanted to scope out people's homes for some ill intent that I had, all I have to do is go on social media and say, show me your bedroom, show me your kitchen, show me your living room. And I think that we're making ourselves vulnerable in terms of our safety. Now, I'm sure that most people who are posting these just want design ideas, just want layout ideas, color schematics and things like that. And it's probably mostly innocent, but we have to consider when it is not, and that it may not always be innocent. And so this episode is really dedicated to us considering safe practices, best practices when on social media. I was speaking with a law enforcement officer in my community over the weekend, and I was talking about this. I said, "Boy, people are just post. I mean, all someone has to do is say, show me your TV, show me how you have your TV mounted," and people are just posting a picture and sending it to these strangers that they don't know. Um, and we were both agreed how unwise that was. And so, in speaking with her, I thought, well, maybe I should share some of this with the NeuroSpeaks audience, and maybe it can inform what we do, what you do on social media, uh, your children, and you can, share some of these ideas with your friends and your family members. So I'm going to share 10 ideas regarding our use of social media and what we can do to protect ourselves and protect the people that we love. So one, the first thing, be wise when we're in groups. Be wise when you're following pages of what you share, especially when people are asking to see the interior of our homes. Be very, very cautious about that. So that's number one. Number two, be conservative in what you post. We have to think that, man, once something is posted, it's always there. Regardless of if we press the delete button, if we decide that what we posted wasn't a good idea, I changed my mind. We have to consider that once we post something to social media, then it's out of our control what then happens to that. So make sure that you're conservative in what you're posting. Sometimes you've heard the saying, less is more. So think about what it is that you're going to post, the intention of what you're posting, and make sure that what we're posting aligns with what we want our public images to be. So number two, be conservative in what you post. And remember, once it's out there, it's always out there. Number three, I encourage you, and you encourage your family and your friends, to not post when intoxicated, whether that's intoxicated with substances, drugs, or alcohol, and do not post when you are intoxicated with intense emotions, whether that's anger, whether that's sadness, whether that's grief. I encourage you to refrain from posting, because when we are intoxicated, whether with substances and under the influences of that, or under the influence of intense emotion, we may post something in our haste to express, to vent, and it may not be the wisest material that we share with social media, with the people that are following our page or the people that we're friends. That term on social media, friends, that's a somewhat of a deceptive term. People say, "Oh, I have 2,000 friends." Well, do you, or do you have 2,000 people that subscribe to your page or follow your page? We use the word friends kind of loosely. Individually, personally, we probably don't have more than 2 or 3 really close friends. Some of us may have more, but we certainly don't have 2,000 friends. We may have 2,000 associates, 2,000 people that have come across our page, but to think that what we're posting is for our friends. And then remember, people share what they see on social media. I take screenshots all the time and send it to my friends, and we have conversations about something that's funny, something that we think may be offensive, something that we just think is interesting to talk about. So just because you're posting something and you may have your setting to private, for example, it's never private. Anything that we post on social media is really available for the world to see in one way or another. So if you're going to post something, be conservative and do not post when we're under the influence of emotions or substances. Number 4, Security. This is my part one of security. There are these challenges on Facebook, and you may have seen these games, and they say, participate, and there'll be a series of questions that you answer. What was the color of your first car? What city did you and your spouse meet? What year were you born? What was your kindergarten teacher's name? The first initial of your second child's first name. I mean, they ask these very specific questions. And so people, you go down their pages and they just put a list, and then they'll say, after you answer these questions, now share it on your page. So you have a chain or a thread, a series of people who are sharing information. And when you really think about what you're posting, these are the same security questions that are used as verifiers when we're setting up accounts. You may have an account that you have a password for, but there may be backup security questions. For example, if you lost your password, if you forgot your password, then they'll say, well, what was the make of your first car? Or what was the model of your first car? Or what street did you grow up on? There's specific questions. And when you think about these challenges of these games, they are the exact same questions. And as we know, people are hacking and engaging in fraudulent activity and stealing identities. And here we are just giving people open access to all of these very, very important details that nobody needs to know about us, especially the social media world and the World Wide Web. So be cautious and be security minded. Don't post your date of birth. Don't post your children's full names, the school that your child goes to, and think about, think before you post. Think about what you're posting and what that information could be used for. Number 5, and this is the security part 2 of this. When you are establishing passwords, use passwords that are not easily guessed. Use passwords that include numbers and those special characters. Use a sentence, use a phrase. And I encourage you, if you don't have two-factor authentication, to use two-factor authentication. And it is inconvenient, sure. There are accounts that I use when I log on that I'm going to get a text message so that the system verifies that I am in fact the user. So I encourage you to use two-factor authentication. And then whether we're talking about social media or even your own banking or credit accounts, set up notifications so that anytime your account is being accessed, that you know it. Your credit card is being used, that you get a text, that you get an email to verify, that you know what's going on. And you can get those notifications in real time. So going back over the first 5, refrain from posting pictures of the interior of your home. Again, if you want to post a color of paint that you use for a wall, okay, but do you have to send a picture or post a picture of your entire living room? No. If you want to post a picture of a piece of furniture, of a picture frame, of your fireplace, okay, but you don't have to post, and I don't have to post pictures of the entire rooms in our homes. So refrain from posting pictures of our homes. Be conservative when we post. Number 3, don't post when intoxicated with substance or emotions. Number 4, security part 1, don't post factors or details about you that can be used to steal your identity. Security part 2, when you're using and establishing passwords, make them difficult for people to guess, right? Don't use your date of birth. I remember when I was young and starting out in the world, I would have my date of birth for nearly every password. And I learned, that would be my PIN number. but I've learned since then. And so I encourage you to be more judicious and cautious in your setting of your passwords. Number 6, we have to protect our children. As I said earlier, people have very nefarious intents, and you and I may not be able to conceive the kind of evil and ugliness that's in the world, and the lows that people stoop to, and the vile thoughts that some people have. That might not be something that's in the forefront of your mind or my mind. However, people are ill, people are sick, and people can be very vile. So reconsider posting pictures of your children in bathing suits, in bikinis, in their beds, in their bedrooms. Refrain from posting pictures of our children where they're not fully dressed. Sex trafficking is real, kidnapping is real. We see this, a child is just playing outside, and next thing they're gone, or they're at their school and they're walking home from school, and they're gone. And if we think about some of the information that we share, we tell people with ill intent so much about ourselves, so much about our children. People can go on our social media pages and know what time our children go to school because we post what school we go to. We post pictures outside of the school. We post pictures of our children in their school uniforms. And all someone has to do is just go to the school website to find out what time school starts and what time school is dismissed. So we have to protect our children by being very, very conservative in what we post about them, and protect our children's privacy by not posting pictures of them without their clothes on. I see mothers, grandmothers, aunties, fathers. I see people posting pictures of their daughters with so much of their body showing. I've seen mothers post pictures of their daughters with their little girls sleep in the bed and in very comfortable positions in the bed, but not something that you should let a stranger, or not a position that you should let a stranger see. You and I would not let 2,000 people parade through our homes. We would not let a stranger walk into our child's bedroom and watch them while they're sleeping. But we'd post a picture like that. We have to be more thoughtful. And I know that we're posting celebrations, we're posting beach days, we're posting graduations and proms and, special moments in our lives. But we should be conservative in what we're sharing about our children, and be conservative in the pictures that we post. You may have a picture of your child in his or her bathing suit, but the world doesn't need to see it. Let's be very, very cautious. Number 7, know the rules of your employer regarding social media use. You can post what you think politically because you want to engage with your followers, your subscribers, your quote Facebook friends. However, your employer may have policies regarding social media. So know the rules of your employer regarding use of social media. You don't want to jeopardize your livelihood like so many people do because they're saying some things that they think that may not be popular, that may be offensive. They're posting this and they're getting let go and terminated from their jobs because of something that they post on social media. It is just not worth it. So it's just not a good idea to do that. So be considerate of what the policies and the procedures are for your employer. Number 8, you don't need to accept every friend request. I don't accept every friend request. I usually will accept every friend request from a woman But I'll even go on that page just to try to verify that it is indeed a woman and it's a real woman. People create fake pages all the time on social media. They have their incognito page. Sometimes people have pages and they don't have a picture of themselves as the profile picture. You and I don't have to accept every friend request. Um, I know I also try to go to someone's page and see if they have uh, Bitcoin in their about profile, because I don't want to uh, accept a friend request and now I'm being solicited to engage in Bitcoin or any other kind of online uh, non-physical currency, digital currency. I don't want to be pitched to, and it's so annoying for me when I accept a friend request and as soon as I press confirm, that person is in my inbox, or that person is asking me to follow their business page. Um, and I do have a Facebook page for the Nora Speaks podcast. However, I do not send out a request for someone to follow the page as soon as a friend request is confirmed. People, I don't personally don't like being inundated, so I don't want to inundate other people. Um, so you don't have to accept every friend request, and as a woman, you don't need to accept every request that comes from a man. And I personally, the folks who I'm friends with on social media who are males are my family, cousins and my brother, or um, and a very, very select few business associates. However, I know the kind of nonsense that people get caught up in social media, and my personal page is really to disseminate information. It's not a page that I really use for, I'll say, personal reasons. I like to promote the work that's happening in my community and share information. Um, and I'm very conservative about folks that I engage with on social media and how I engage on social media. I have male friends from high school who have sent me friend requests. Well, those requests are just deleted or pending because that's just not something that I I like. I don't think it's necessary for me to um, accept friend requests from men who are not my family, especially as a married woman. And because my page is a public page for sharing information, then anyone can just follow me. We don't need to, quote, have that uh, connection, as it were. Again, I'm just trying to be pretty conservative with engagements on social media. My social media use is typically about sharing information that I think is relevant for my community and highlighting some work or successes that happen from my engagement and activities in the community. So, just in general, you don't have to accept every friend request. Be careful when you notice strange behavior, people in your inbox saying strange things. Sometimes you got to block someone. Well, you got to do that. Um, we shouldn't give just anyone access. People, as I said, are ill. People are having challenges, and you don't want to be an opportunity for somebody that has some of these challenges. Number nine, we should refrain from posting and sharing our own fears and personal insecurities. Uh, Social media, they're not your therapist, they're not your bestie, they're not your spouse, they're not your minister. We don't need to tell social media every struggle that we have, every hardship that we've had, um, every challenge, every hurt, every pain. And it amazes me how people post pretty personal information on their social media page. And I think that social media, all the different types of social media, is helping us become disinhibited. You and I wouldn't be, let's say, in our college classroom and just tell the room, yeah, I was molested, right? Or you wouldn't say, yeah, I'm having issues with my body image. I mean, it's not something that we would just say to random strangers, but somehow we use social media and we share some of this, and social media has kind of created some detachment. But that detachment still doesn't, the detachment that social media has does not eliminate that we're still telling strangers very, very personal things about ourselves. So I would encourage you to, if there's something personal you want to share, you want to vent, then, tell your friend, tell your spouse, tell a trusted loved one, talk to your minister, counselor, therapist. Social media is just not the place to be opening ourselves up and sharing some of the most vulnerable aspects of our lives. So, think about that. Think about how you may have hundreds of people or maybe thousands of people that follow your social media page. Would you stand in the middle of your town and just tell strangers as they walk by very personal things about yourself? I doubt that you would. So we shouldn't think of social media much differently. And again, I'll just say that detachment, how we can kind of post something and we're not physically interacting with somebody, it kind of creates that buffer. However, I would consider you to think of it or consider it in a personalized, interactive thing. If you wouldn't walk up to some stranger and say something personal, don't tell the strangers that are following your social media page, because they're still strangers. There may be more distant strangers, but they're still strangers. And then number 10, let's refrain from posting pictures of ourselves in our hospital beds, in our gowns, with an oxygen mask on, with a nasal cannula on, with a hospital gown on. It's just, again, you wouldn't just open up your hospital room and just ask strangers to parade into your room, right? Heck, if I was in a hospital, there are some associates that I wouldn't want to come. I wouldn't want my coworkers. I wouldn't want my supervisor to come in to my hospital room. I wouldn't want colleagues to come in to visit me in the hospital. It's a place where, you're receiving care, you've had some injury or some illness, and it's just not appropriate, right? The same thing goes when we post pictures in our bedrooms and our bathrooms. There are areas that we just do not welcome a parade of strangers to come tramping through. Let's not think that social media is any different. We don't let strangers in our bedrooms. We don't let strangers visit us in our bathrooms. When we're posting on social media, we're making these areas now accessible. And that is a challenge for a lot of people because of that detachment part of social media. The World Wide Web has made connections easier, has made the sharing of information much faster. Now, that's a good thing. However, the downside of it is people sit behind their computer screens, their smartphones, and they share things with someone that's quite a distance away, and they're able to do it very quickly. However, we have went into sharing very personal spaces, some very personal pictures, and some very personal information about ourselves using social media. So I encourage you to be considerate about what you're posting on social media, the pictures, the information about your children, the information about your spouse, your own personal history. Be very, very conservative with your social media activity so that you can stay safe, so that you don't make yourself, your family, and those that you love, your property, vulnerable to people who have very evil intentions. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. It's always great to be with you. I'm blessed to have this platform. I'm very blessed to have you as part of my listening audience. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, norahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.